a suspected failure of the mobile phone mast. We've been speaking to people who have been impacted by this. People like James Kirby. He lives in the town and told BBC Radio Cornwall's Christine Butler how he was feeling about the inconvenience.
There's been a major phone outage for 10 days now in Foy. So anybody who is with EE, they've got no mobile coverage. They can't make calls, they can't receive calls, you can't browse websites, you can't WhatsApp. It's affecting whether you want to communicate with friends, tradesmen, and it's gone on for 11 days now. It's appalling.
Did you think you were the only one affected at first?
Well, I did at first, and then I saw on a local group that lots of people were complaining about it, and I rang up EE, and they said to me that they have got a problem with the mast in Foy, and they just can't get in touch with the landowner to get access to fix it. And I thought, well, that's a bit strange. And everybody in Foy is talking about it. And I was speaking to somebody the other day, and they said, actually, the landowner herself has got in touch with EE to say you can go and fix it any day, and that still hasn't got it sorted. So it's just going on far too long. It's like going back to the Dark Ages.
It's going round and round by the sounds of it, isn't it? Looking for some clarity on all of this. Let's hear from someone else who's been affected. Richard Kitto. He's been running the butchers in Foy for half a century.
I think it must have been a couple of weeks ago. I should imagine we had nothing at all. Mobile phone was absolutely shocking. And a lot of people want to pay by phone, obviously, shopping. And some of the places, they couldn't get any signal at all. We were fortunate we had a few non-EE people in, so that worked out okay for us. And we had one time there that we had no internet at all on our card payments. So you can imagine we had a card machine, it wasn't working at all, both machines were down. We got a cash machine opposite us here, which is quite handy. But the problem we have that having no banks, there was a lot of big notes coming for a can of Coke or a packet of crisps, so small purchases, big money. So it didn't take us long before we were able to change completely. So then we had another issue. No card payment, no change against the notes, and cleared everything out the cash machine they had. And it was a bit stressful, to be quite honest, on the end of the day.
I bet Richard doesn't want another day like that, and who could blame him? Alan Toms owns a boatyard in the ferries that cross to Polruan and Badinnick. He told Christine about the problems he'd experienced.
So in emergency, I can't get hold of the ferries, and my customers over the boatyard, they come down and say, I am trying to get hold of you for 2 weeks, and I'll say, well, the phone's out of order. They can't believe it. In this modern world, it's all hang.
So have you lost business because of it?
Yes, of course we have.
In what way?
Well, the customer rings up and he can't get hold of us, so...
He thinks you're not running?
You're not running, or what are we doing?
So when do you normally have to contact the harbour master? What do you have to...
Well, if there's anything goes wrong, or if we're broken down, or if anything like that, our first call is to the harbour master.
And that's just not happening?
No, not on the phone, no. It's unbelievable. They still have our money, don't they? They don't give us compensation or nothing.
Ah, well, listen out, Alan. There may be some hope for you on that front. Holidaymaker Georgina from London has had a truly quiet week in Foy with a rather unexpected digital detox.
Well, I had Wi-Fi, but we didn't receive calls, like even for the delivery for food. And then we realised that it's not just us in the flat, it's the whole of Foy, apparently. But it's fine, we're on holiday, so we don't really care that much if people don't bother us the whole time.
Maybe it's a blessing.
Maybe it is a blessing. It's fine.
Do you use your phone a lot?
Yes, but this week's fine. If I lived here, I would be cross.
Well, a spokesperson for EE told us that we are working hard to resolve an issue affecting mobile phone services in what it calls the Cornwall area. We have an engineer on site and we apologise to customers for any inconvenience caused. It's prompted you to share with me some of your stories as well. This isn't the first time that there have been difficulties with this particular provider. Elsewhere in Cornwall, says Janet in St Buryan. She says last summer people using that network in St Buryan had problems for over a month, while other networks networks were working fine. This from David, who says that since the mast was moved for the A30 dualling works, his EE signal is useless at Kenwyn in Truro. And also this from Rich, who says this is just highlighting just how we are relying so much on mobile phones. Ted's in Perranwell. He says he's had a phone mast on his land. The telephone company has access to the property at all times. They have their own key to access the mast. Perhaps scratching his head as to why that's not necessarily the case in Foy. But as you heard, the suggestion was that the landowner has given permission to the company to sort that out. And maybe they are on site right now trying to rectify all of that. We heard Alan there, who is involved in the boatyard and the ferries that go across the estuary there, talking about loss of money as well. Scott Dixon is a consumer rights expert who hosts the Facebook page The Complaints Resolver. I chatted to him on the show this morning about rights and what businesses like EE are expected to do for their customers.
It falls under the Consumer Rights Act 2015, which states that goods and services must be fit for purpose as described and satisfactory quality, and all services should be carried out with reasonable care and skill. You've entered into a contract for a mobile phone service with uninterrupted coverage that you can rely on, and consumers have rights and expectations, and it's not unreasonable to expect to have a decent continuous mobile phone coverage that you can rely on.
What sort of obligation do these companies actually have to tell you what's going on when there are issues?
Well, you would think they would have the technology to send you a text message, even if there isn't mobile phone signals available and things like that. And it's just poor communication, isn't it? I mean, I looked on EE's website last night for their contact page, and it's nigh on difficult to contact them. And they don't seem to want to offer any customer service at all. And they only give you a phone number, which is no use if you can't make any phone calls.
Yeah, the irony.
Yeah, there is a postal address on their website, but I wouldn't bother with that. I looked up the CEO email address last night, and I'll spell it out for you because it's an unusual name. And I'll put it in writing to the CEO, your complaint. And his name is Mark Allery. So it's marc@ee.co.uk.
So that might be one way. That might be one way of getting your point across. They do say that they're in the area trying to fix this, but that's little help for those that have spoken to us who've said that they've lost business through this as well. I mean, can you claim for any kind of loss of income with something like this?
You can, and you are entitled to itemised costs and losses due to a loss of service and breach of contract. Make sure you have receipts and proof, and you're also entitled to a pro rata refund for service not received. You are entitled to that being reimbursed under the Consumer Rights Act 2015.
And how often do people actually do that? Or do they think, oh, it's such a faff, I can't be bothered, I've got the service back, I don't care anymore?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? I think we're too complacent, James, and we're not militant enough in terms of asserting our consumer rights and seeking redress. And that's why I do what I do in terms of highlighting what you're entitled to and why you need to push for redress, because it's just simply unacceptable to have a phone mast that's out of service for nearly 2 weeks.
Consumer rights expert Scott Dixon, and you can learn more from him as well. He hosts that Facebook page, The Complaints Resolver. It's 8:15 now here on BBC